What's up guys, my name is Marc Steiner, and today we're going to be reviewing the Sony 16-35 2.8 G Master. Let's get right into it. This lens is absolutely amazing, which comes as no surprise because it's such an important lens. It's actually 1/3 of the Holy Trinity. And if you don't know what that is, the Holy Trinity of lenses is usually the 3 lenses that most pros use for everything. And that's the 16-35, the 24-70, and the 70-200. So let's start with the physical build of this lens. This lens is built extremely well. It's weather sealed, and considering its build quality and size, it's a little bit lighter than you'd expect, coming in only at 680 grams. Like other Sony lenses, it features a custom button on the side, which is always nice to have. It also has an AF/MF switch, so you can just switch it on the lens itself and you don't have to dig through the menus. The one big downside of this lens for me is its larger than usual filter size. This thing comes in at a whopping 82 millimeters, which means that you're either going to have to buy some step-up rings for your current filters or invest in some new filters, which can get very expensive. This lens does not zoom internally. It does protrude when you zoom out to 16 millimeters, and that's a little bit unfortunate. Me being a prime guy, I always assumed that when you zoom, it means it's going further, so I assumed we'd be going from 16-35. However, on this lens, when you zoom out, it's going from 35 and then protrudes to 16 millimeters, which is a little bit weird. It threw me off, but I got used to it. There is no stabilization in this lens, which is not uncommon in Sony lenses because of their in-body image stabilization. That's what they've been focusing on, and I get it. It means that the lens can be smaller and lighter, but it would have been nice to have in this lens. Now on to the IAF test. This lens performs very well when it comes to tracking my eye. No surprise there, as it is a G Master lens. I was especially impressed with how well it tracked me even on the very edges of the frame. Sure, sometimes it would start to stutter, but you're never really going to be focusing on someone's eye like that on the bleeding edge of the frame. The fact that it can even track my eye at this ultra-wide focal length of 16 millimeters is very impressive. When I pop back into frame, it instantly catches onto my eye. When zoomed into 35 millimeters, the IAF gets even better, which is not surprising. The eye is now bigger in frame, and the camera and its focusing system have an easier time recognizing the eye. Performance is absolutely amazing, and it stuck to my eye even while I was moving around like a madman. When it comes to photos, this is an ultra-wide to standard wide lens, so it comes as no surprise that there's a little bit of distortion. On the wide end, we get a little bit of barrel distortion, and on the long end, we get a bit of pincushion distortion, which are both easily fixed by applying lens corrections. There is quite a severe vignette on this lens, but I kind of like it depending on the situation. Again, easily fixable with lens corrections. This is what the lens looks like at 35, 28, 24, 20, and 16 millimeters. Now, I wouldn't really recommend this lens as a portrait lens, but you can take some cool wide-angle epic portraits. Obviously, these are going to be more environmental portraits because this lens is really not meant for up-close portraiture, but you can get some different shots with this lens. Now, what this lens is really meant for is architecture and landscapes, and here are a couple shots I took while using this epic lens. That ultra-wide angle really hits different sometimes, and you just can't believe that you're getting those kind of shots out of a lens. The corner-to-corner sharpness is excellent on this lens, one of the best I've seen, which I know is very important for a lot of people who are looking to buy this lens. All these photos here were edited with my presets, so if you're interested, feel free to check out the link in the description. I'll link some sample images in the description, so be sure to check that out if you feel like pixel peeping yourself. On to video AF. At 16mm, the video AF is fine. It does seem to struggle a little bit when your subject is further away from the camera, but also because it's such a wide focal length, a lot of the shot is going to be in focus anyway, so it's only really noticeable when your subject is up close and there is some separation with the background. When I'm close to the lens, it has a much easier time picking up on me and tracking, like when I pop back into frame, and it catches me almost instantly and then tracks me to the edge. However, when I jump back into frame, it doesn't quite get me in focus and is a bit slower trying to pick me up, and isn't able to before I jump back out of frame. At 35mm, because there's more depth with the focal length, less is in focus compared to 16mm, and the lens does have to work harder to keep me in focus. You can see here when I backpedal, it loses me pretty quickly, and then picks me up again a couple feet away, and then sticks me pretty well all the way until I start moving forward again. While running towards the camera, it still does a pretty good job tracking me up until the point where I'm right in front of the lens, where it's not able to get me back into focus. The rack focus onto the background is very smooth, and I do enjoy that with this lens. When I come back up, it once again isn't able to get me into focus until I'm almost out of frame. When I pop back into frame, once again it fails to get me into focus. When I run towards the camera again, this time it has a harder time tracking me from mid-distance, but is able to get me into focus at close distance before I'm out of the frame. So if you want to be a YouTube vlogger, the 16-35 is the quintessential vlogging lens. Every big YouTuber uses it because it's so cinematic with that wide 2.8 aperture, it just looks so good. And because it's so wide, you can hold the camera much closer to your face compared to other lenses on the market, which is better for audio, as well as visually, you don't need to be holding it way out there like some other lenses. So it's really, really nice to have. So as you can see, 16mm is a little bit wide to vlog on because of the distortion, so it makes my arm look a million miles long. However, it does mean that I can hold the camera really close to my face and still have a wide angle shot. Right now the lens is about 5, maybe 6 inches away from my nose, which is kind of crazy, so the lens is right in my face. Personally, for me, I feel like 20mm is a sweet spot for me for vlogging purposes on this lens. It's wide enough that I still get a nice wide angle shot with some nice depth of field, but it's not too wide that it's going to distort the hell out of my arm and my face, so I really like 20mm for vlogging purposes. I also usually vlog with the GorillaPod attached to my camera, but this lens is so big and a little bit front heavy on this camera body that I actually prefer to vlog without the GorillaPod on this one and just hold the lens because of that weight distribution. However, the weight of this lens is very noticeable and your arm will get pretty tired pretty quickly because it is so heavy. Another downside of this lens is that it is not stabilized, so you're not getting shake-free footage with this vlogging lens, which is a little bit unfortunate. However, since it's so wide, it also does not show the shake as much as other tighter lenses, which is a nice, helpful thing since it doesn't have that stabilization. So, what are my overall thoughts on this lens? It's an absolute beast, and if you're willing to drop $2,200 on it, you're going to love it. But me personally, I can't see myself buying this lens. Tamron now has the 17-28 2.8, which comes in at $900 with near identical performance in a smaller and lighter package, and that for me is a much more enticing purchase. Canon, even though this is not for Sony cameras, now has their 15-35 2.8 RF lens, and that is image stabilized, which is really nice to have in that. This means that there's now competition in both price point and technology, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sony were to come out with a version 2 in the not so distant future. Alright guys, that's it from me. Let me know in the comment section down below if you found this helpful. Are you going to be buying this lens? Let me know if you do. My name has been Marc Steiner, and I will see you next time.